I've got 2,400 followers.
Let's watch that go to 2,401.
It might go backwards. There could be some unfollows.
You're listening to Locals Only, a Sunshine Coast-based podcast focusing on profiling the best young and emerging business owners the coast has to offer, showcasing the journey of the next generation of movers and shakers and the ones to watch as they set the benchmark in small business. This podcast is sponsored by Local Property Group.
Craig Morrison, aka Morrow, aka the Baker, fingers in every pie, right? Welcome to the Locals Only podcast, my friend, episode 1. Mate, how you been?
Mate, been good. Try not to eat donuts. Put a bit of weight on, actually.
Oh, so the baker is more than just the fingers in pies, mate. I guess episode 1, really exciting for us. You got the call up late. It was supposed to be one of your good mates, Sully, was supposed to be episode 1. I think he got a bit nervous about getting the microphone in front of him. So appreciate you being episode 1, mate. Episode 1, basically the purpose of the podcast is talking to local business owners, particularly small business. You know, we're looking at guys under 40, thereabouts. Hopefully you're under 40. I should have checked. Shit.
Only made by a couple of years.
I should have checked it first. But, mate, I guess what I want to really talk about today is just learn more about Morrow, right? The origin story, your journey thus far, what you're up to, again, what fingers you got your pies in, and have a bit of a yarn, mate. So how's business feel at the moment?
Business is good, yeah. So, you know, the day-to-day business is selling real estate. Yeah. And, yeah, look, we've come out of a crazy couple of years. Market's been good. It's getting a little bit tougher now, but it was always going to happen, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, so director, owner, principal, chief rainmaker, right, of Town Property Group. Everyone, if anyone is even watching or listening, go and have a follow of Town, doing some cool things. Obviously, we're a Local Property Group, not a competitor at all. He's in a different pay class to us. But mate, obviously, let's park Town for a moment. Let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about Craig Morrison growing up. Let's talk about your origin story, mate. What was family life like? Did you grow up on the coast? Give me a bit of a rundown on that.
Yeah. So grew up here on the Sunshine Coast. So been here my whole life. I have got twin sisters. So 2 years younger than me. Mum and dad are still married, still together. So, you know, which is pretty unusual these days for relationships, you know, lasting that long. So, you know, mum and dad were, you know, always into that, always had their own business, small business. So, you know, they're into video stores. I guess that's where I had my first jobs, you know. Dad would hire me every Monday and fire me every Saturday.
What was your hourly rate?
Mate, I can't even remember. I used to eat more chocolates and chips in the shop and give away more freebies than I probably was worth.
How good. What was it? Was it like a Blockbuster or just like a local video shop?
Yeah, wasn't a Blockbuster, it was a competitor. Yeah, so they were called Leading Edge and, you know, Go Video. You know, they had quite a few different video stores, you know.
So what happened? Let's touch on that, because that's probably a pretty interesting story to talk about in itself, right? So obviously had parents in business, so you were around operational stuff for quite a while, like business, and probably developed how to run a business from an early age.
Yeah. Look, as a kid, I mean, whenever it rained, obviously the video stores were extremely busy, and, you know, I remember weekends where myself and my sisters would be sitting, you know, under the counter or, you know, out in the back room for hours on end. And yeah, it was always good, sort of, you know, seeing mum and dad operate their own. You know, and I guess, you know, over the years, the video stores didn't turn out very good. And, you know, that was kind of good to see firsthand that not everything lasts forever. And, you know, you've got to keep innovating and things change. And, you know, obviously, you know, VHS then went to DVD. You know, people listen to podcasts probably don't even know what they are. Went to DVD and then, you know, ultimately went online and streaming. So, you know, in the end, the video stores didn't do good, you know.
Well, the funny thing, Netflix, right? Netflix's origin story, they started off mailing DVDs out. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Before the online streaming, it was like they'd mail you out a DVD and then you'd have to send the DVD back.
Correct.
That was the OG Netflix story. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So when, like, from how old did they have the video stores until that phase out happened? Did did they have to get out reluctantly, or were they forced out?
No, they kind of were. Yeah, like I mean, they were kind of forced out in the end. I mean, it was sort of GFC times as well.
Yeah.
You know, mum and dad, unfortunately, you know, didn't make it through the GFC. They kind of had five properties, investment properties and things like that. I mean, look, I didn't miss out as a kid. I had motorbikes. I had, you know, they bought me a set of chrome wheels for my first car.
VL.
Yeah, they had the VL Commodore. Yeah, so I mean, you know, I didn't miss out as a kid, and I saw all that, and then they had that happen, the properties and the GFCs and the interest rates. They were hitting credit card after credit card to make the payments, and in the end, just, you know, hand the keys back, you know, to the family home and 5 houses. So, you know, I guess a lot of that has kind of put me to who I am these days, you know.
How old were you GFC time when all that was happening?
Oh, I would have been, you know, 18, 19.
Okay, so you're old enough to know shit's getting real here. Things are getting tight. You can see your parents probably struggling. I mean, glad to hear that your parents are still together after that as well. That's probably an interesting point to make. But, I mean, ultimately for an 18, 19-year-old, that's especially coming into business, seeing your parents in business. Like, I mean, again, we spoke a lot off air today about, like, reflecting back on those things. Do you think that was, like, an influential moment for you?
Yeah, look, definitely, and I think you know, it makes you who you are today. You know, seeing seeing that it can go wrong. You know, I think a lot of people are pretty bulletproof. You know, and they don't, you know, and when you're young, you don't have the fear, right? It's like riding a skateboard. You're not scared of you know, falling off and breaking an arm, and it's a little bit like that, I guess, in business. So you kind of need to have that kind of fearless attitude, but you've also got to realise that, it can go wrong, and, you know, it's probably, you know, who I am today in terms of, you know, I am a little conservative with cash flow and cash at bank and leverage. I mean, I don't like finance, I don't like loans. You know, obviously I've still got some of them, but, you know, it's not something I race out and tick a heap of things up, you know. And it's like, if you can't afford to buy the jet ski or buy the boat, my mantra, like with cash, you shouldn't be buying them. I mean, that's kind of my attitude, and, you know.
Adopted early though, adopted from your parents, you think?
Yeah, well, yes, just seeing it go wrong, you know, seeing mum crying, handing over the keys to the family home. So, you know, and that kind of also, I guess, made me realise that, you know, it's up to me now as well. You know, they're too old to make it back or go again, you know, whatever they're 50, or, you know, it's technology's changed. So, you know, if you don't know how to use a computer, you kind of get left behind now.
Mate, that's a cool story. I didn't know about that about you. That's interesting. So let's rewind. So 18, 19-year-old Morrow, what's your first sort of gig out of school? What do you start doing?
First job was when I was 12. So I actually started, like, outside of the video stores. Worked at, which is now called Kunara. So it was called the Natural Food Store at Forest Glen. So I was in the fruit and veg department, you know, shackling the onions, putting the bananas out.
On the fruiterer.
Yeah. So that was actually my first sort of job. But, you know, my first real kind of, you know, full-time job was working for Education Queensland in the schools in technology and IT.
Yeah. Okay, and how long was that for? Like 17, 18 we're talking until?
Yeah. Once I was finished school, then I was into that. At the same time, I was at uni, you know, studying IT and business.
Yeah.
So it was sort of, you know, done in parallel, I guess. And, it was a good foundation being part of that school ecosystem.
So that was obviously the burning drive early on. Straight out of school, you were looking at that IT avenue, the pathway of, like, I mean, you're looking at education, right? You probably, a lot of people think early on, particularly the conservatives, you get into education or government, you're probably set for the majority of your life, right? You got a job for life. So, I mean, how were you feeling around then? Was there always that itch for just doing something bigger and better?
Yeah, look, probably not. You know, like, it's, I can't remember back that far, but I think things just kind of play out with how it plays out. But like, I mean, there was no path after school back then apart from really uni. You know, either did a trade or you did uni. So when I chose IT, it was the tech boom back then. I didn't actually do any IT in any of my grade 11 or 12. I knew nothing about it. I just had a feeling that, hey, this is pretty cool. You know, it looked cool. It was like, you know, they were all, you know, everyone was making, you know, all this money, .com, internet. Yeah. So I kind of launched into, you know, to do that, and, you know, managed to, you know, obviously get through the degree. And, you know, a lot of it was heavily programming and coding. You know, I wasn't very good at that, but I've always had a way to find myself around the right people. You know, like, you know, with everything I've done, you know, I always seem to, find a way to be with the people who know the parts I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Find the strengths. Strengths to your weaknesses, right? Like if you can't do something, find someone who can do it.
100%, and not just sort of not just hang on to them, but then add value to them. You know, what can I do for them? You know, so it's not just one-way traffic. You know, I think a lot of people try and pick people's brains, and they sort of suck their brains, but they don't ever want to give anything back. And I think the key to it all is adding value yourself. You know, where you can. You know.
Good networking piece of advice for sure. So first business was IT, right?
Yeah, yep. We're called BCX. Yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean that's a good segue. Yeah, my first business partner was a guy called Dion Bester, South African, maybe 10 years older than me. Probably one of the smartest techs I've ever, IT tech guys I've ever seen in my life. He's just a genius, and we worked together at a previous company, and I was probably middle of the pack in terms of skills in IT. I wasn't the best, but I learned pretty quickly that it's not about your technical ability, it's about the customer service and responsiveness and getting back to customers. All these IT techs, they were great, but they snuck in, no one knew they were there, they left, and no one even knew it was fixed. Whereas so I started adding a bit of value there, and we worked together for a few years, and we sort of had this idea, hey, let's just go do this ourselves. We think we can do it better. There was no grand scheme or plan. We had about $1,000 in the bank account. I jumped in and started it, and he stayed there and kept topping me up with a bit of salary. He was on big salaries as the best tech, so he'd sort of give me a couple $100 a week from his salary to pay the bills. And we got our first client, which was Pippa Coleman Lawyers down in Maroochydore.
Wow.
It's sort of 20 or 30 lawyers, so we picked them up, and then we sort of bluffed our way through the rest of it, telling everyone, we got Pippa Coleman, we picked the next one up, and, you fake it till you make it. And Dion was logging in at 10 o'clock at night and helping me, after he finished his other job, and, changing shirts during the day, and, doing all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's.
So what, right? So you were looking at, was it more like a service-based IT? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so we used to look after businesses, so accounting firms, medical practices, law firms, real estate agents. Back then, it was, they'd have internal computers and servers. I mean, now everything's in the cloud, in the data centers, but so we would just basically be, tech support on some type of, we were the first to introduce the retainer model. So we kind of came up with a retainer instead of per hourly rate. We sort of, back then, we're like, hey, look, give us whatever it is, $2,000 for the month. We'd work it out on a per user basis. And we had that guaranteed revenue, and the whole pitch was to keep the computers running, the backups happening, instead of being reactive when they broke, and you come in and charge thousands of dollars, pay us this maintenance fee, and we'll stay on top of it and be on call.
You kind of brushed over that retainer model, but if that's early days of retainer, like whose idea was that? Yours? Was it Dion? Dion's the other bloke, sorry?
Yeah. Look,
where'd you come up with that?
Look, to be honest, I think we just stole it from the States. They're normally ahead of us, and we sort of saw that model starting to take off. And no one was doing it on the coast because they were too worried that they might have spent 30 hours on a month on a site and worked out their hourly rate wasn't good enough. But if you could get it all humming and ticking and working, it would kind of just it worked out.
It worked out. Yeah, right. No, interesting. I think, and again, probably a thing that's just in the back of your mind now. You probably didn't think it was a huge deal at the time, but it obviously worked to get you more clients. So what roles did you play? So between you and Dion, was he more of eventually once he came on full time eventually, I assume?
Correct.
Yeah. So he played more of the support, or so the back end role, you then shifted more to front end?
Yeah, I was front end, so sales, I guess call it CEO when we had, no staff, but I was sales and strategic direction type stuff. He was just pure technical. So, and he's probably still my best business partner to date, because we had such clear roles defined as business partners, and it is hard to find business partners where it's just so black and white. No overlap at all. Anything technical, we just didn't even need to have a discussion. If a server crashed at midnight, he'd wake up, get out. I wouldn't even know about it. He'd go sort it. And if I had to bring someone on or do a proposal or a pitch or whatever, we just had super clear roles.
And was that day one? Like you just knew your lanes from day one, or did you have to kind of figure it out? You bump into?
No, we just knew from day dot because he didn't have those skills at all. So it was up to me to fill those. And when we worked together at the other IT company, we got close because, I struggled technically and needed help from him. I'd be like, hey, I can't fix this computer. And I started saying to him, mate, like, what can I do for you? And he goes, mate, can you drive this computer to Brisbane for me? Yeah, no stress, mate. Take a computer to Brisbane, drop it off. But no one else in the office would ever do anyone's dirty work. I was happy because he'd be helping out. So, so we just kind of had that relationship. So, it was good.
Yeah, cool. So the IT business, how long... What was the lifespan of that?
Yeah, well, look, we were a couple of years in that. We sort of we had a pretty wild journey. We kind of got it to 15 or so staff, and then we merged with another IT company to kind of take us to the biggest there was at 30 kind of staff. So that merger was good. We learned about different cultures and different ways of doing things, and trying to consolidate two brands into a new brand. It was a pretty good experience at a young age. We also got ripped off a little bit of money along the way. It's not understanding. We took equity in this new business, and they had a heap of debt. They'd actually borrowed money to buy us and to buy the company they'd bought. So we've taken this equity thinking that we've done this real rock star deal, and we thought we were the kings.
How old are you at this point?
Early 20s. Probably mid 20s. Yeah, mid 20s. So we thought we were the heroes, and then it comes out later down the track when we go to actually sell the business again. It's like hang on a minute, we've got $1 million worth of loans we've got to pay out before everyone else gets paid out. And we're like, what? So it was actually a really good lesson just in company structure, in taking equity that has got debt against it. We learned a hard lesson. It cost us a lot of money at the time, but once again, you learn your most from mistakes.
You wouldn't change it, right?
No, because it was a mistake, and you learn, right? Like, that's when you pay attention when things go wrong. It's easy when it's going right.
So they ended up buying you guys out. What was the situation with
so we ended up selling the business to some guys called Think Office Technology. Really good guys. I actually learned a lot from them. We sold the business for, I think it was like $1.5 million or something back at the time. Obviously, Dion, myself, and someone else were all kind of equity splits. We didn't pocket the whole amount of money.
That would have been pretty cool, though, as a mid-20-year-old, right? Like, back then, we're talking, 12, 13 years ago now, right?
Correct. Years ago. I was probably even getting towards probably late 20s by the time that happened.
That was listed as well, right?
Yeah. So eventually, we sold it to, public listed company. So that was good. And then I, part of the deal, Dion got to no restraint of trade. He got to kind of fly on, and I had to hang around and run it for a couple of years. Which was a good experience. That's when you I really personally learned a lot around profit and losses and CFOs and process and system, because we were kind of thought we knew what we were doing, but we were cowboys, right? And you kind of come into this bigger environment where you've got to
has to be systems focused and to a T, crossing T's and dotting I's.
100%. And it was great. I learned a lot about actually trying to make money. Like doing revenue is great, but once I saw that and actually having proper, targets and systems, and, it was good experience,
So what was next after that? There's been a couple of, because obviously we're talking now. There's a bit going on in between then and now, right?
Yeah, I sort of almost feel like it sounds like I've done too much, but look, after that, I had the itch for tech, and I kind of felt like that sort of tech that we were doing was changing. It was going to end up, all the drop boxes were starting to come out, the cloud-based CRMs were coming out, it was heading more software-based. So I was quite happy to kind of exit that. I've always been pretty aware of, what's happening, trending, what's not, and I think that's everyone should be aware of what's going on. You don't want to be holding something that's legacy. I think from there, we sort of got into
mattresses.
Yeah, mattress. Was it the mattress business, or was it Box Brownie? I can't remember, but it was. Yeah, they were at the same time. They were, So we started. There was a company called BoxBrownie.com that myself and Brad Filipponi was, one of my best friends at the time.
Johnny and Brad on soon.
Yeah.
Third or fourth episode, I think.
Yeah, so like we were best friends back then. Look, we're still friends, but we were best friends, back in those days. And look, he had this crazy idea. He came to me and said, mate, I've got this idea. He was a photographer, and he said, what we'll do is we'll let agents take their own photos. We'll use my editors offshore and we'll build this thing. And, because I knew IT, I was always the guy that people came to with ideas, and I'm pretty good at, I guess, filtering ideas that work versus not. Maybe not so much these days, since being in real estate, it's kind of dumbed me down a little bit, to be honest. I used to probably be, a lot smarter, I kind of feel, but real estate kind of, it turns you pretty dumb. But anyway,
we won't go there. We won't dive into that. But I get it.
So look, we started that. That was awesome. We had this idea, and it was Brad's idea, and I helped execute it. And I jumped in full time in that role as GM, CEO, whatever, to get it going. We took it from just an idea to, when I was there, we're probably doing $250,000 a month, in revenue, and it was making half that in profit. We picked up another partner along the way, a guy I knew called Mel Myers. Had the youngest guy in Australia to attend university at like 13 or 12. Very smart guy. The IQ of Albert Einstein, like real just smart.
Where'd you find him?
Oh, I don't know where I pick him up along the way. I just, I just knew him, and went and seen him. We tried to get the first box brownie piece of software built elsewhere, and it was a failure. We put 20-30 grand into the pot. We were trying to build an app, actually. It didn't work, and I went and seen Mel and said, mate, we've got this awesome idea. It's Brad's idea, but I'm putting it together. He ended up quoting us to build it, and then I'm like, mate, why don't you just take some equity and come on the journey? So cool. we did that. We realised we needed him as well. So he was the Dion, right? He was the Dion from originally. You need the really smart techie guys to pull it off. So we built that at $250K when I was there. I was sort of I lose interest pretty quick. My skills, I guess, I think are startups. I like the startups. I like getting them going. I like kind of that fun and exciting. And I lose interest when it comes to operationally running it. I kind of feel like I've done my bit. This is boring. So
you're like more founder than CEO, right? Like the founder.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'm definitely more of a founder, and kind of good at drumming people up with the ideas, and they follow me. Let's go, guys. Let's head this way. And you've got to obviously you've got to have runs on the board for people to want to follow you. It's hard at the start, but eventually someone says, "Shit, that's a good idea if I'm doing it." So it's good. So anyway, so the boys bought me out at that stage. That was a tough decision. I just lost interest with it, and I said, "Look, do you guys want to buy me out?" At the time, it was pretty good money. I think they bought me out for like, I don't know, $500,000-600,000 or something. To this day now, they're up to, I think, I don't know if I'm meant to say online or not, but they're up to like multi-millions per month in turnover. That business would be valued at, I don't know, huge, right? 20, 30, 40, 50 million.
So regrets of getting out of that, or just happy? You were just done.
Not at all, because I think it's what you do with the money next. If I didn't go on to do other things, I'd be still going far out. I should have stayed on that. And I knew in my heart of hearts that was going to be a huge business. It just took off in the US because real estate agents pay for their own marketing over there. Like, it went viral. We were spending, in the early Facebook days, my job was to sign customers up, right, and get it going. And, we were spending 20-30 grand a month on Facebook back when Facebook used to really work. And I remember Mel, the partner, he's like, "This won't work, you're stupid." And I said, "Mate, I think it's worth a crack, because we know who our customer is. They're real estate agents. We know where they are." And, we had a crazy strategy. We went online on the real estate platforms in America, and I paid some offshore guys to collect every single real estate email address in the country. We grabbed them, we then dropped them into Facebook, we matched them up back then, and then we ran ads targeted at those guys. So
that would have been so cheap back then too.
It was nothing. At one stage, the average spend per month for a new sign up was $30, and my customer acquisition cost was about $18. So we literally just said, just turn it on. Just go. And we just couldn't feed it enough money. We just, we're just feeding it. And and it was really cool. Obviously it wouldn't be like that now, but it was just that time when people hadn't worked out Facebook marketing, and it worked for us. And
right product at the right time.
Right product at the right time. Yeah. And then, so that was
harder to launch now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it'd just be hard to get the cut through, you know.
So talking to agents every day, then, right? So am I sick skipping a step here? Is that what's pushed you into the real estate?
Right, you're skipping a few steps.
Skipping a few, okay. Still shit to happen. There's still a lot of shit happening in between.
Nah, look, I mean, like it's interesting. Yeah, I never wanted to be in real estate sales. Like it wasn't something that ever interests me. I guess that. Probably, I guess in parallel we had a mattress company as well at Box Brownie. Same thing. One of my old CFOs came to me with the concept and says, "Hey, I got this mattress guy. We've got these mattresses in a box. They're foam. They go in a box. They're shipped Australia wide. It's going crazy in America. There's a company called Casper. We looked them up. We're like, wow, no one's doing it in Australia. So we went down. AH Beard was Australia's largest mattress manufacturer. We did a deal with them where it's just the perfect deal where they would make them on demand for us. We didn't have to carry inventory. We didn't have to carry stock. We could scale infinitely.
And they'd ship them?
They'd ship them direct.
Wow.
All we had to do was run the website.
This is pre-Koala days?
This is where I'll get to with Koala. So this is at the exact same time as Koala.
Wow.
So what happened is... we had the wrong team, so I got brought in. Actually, I'd love to say the concept and the idea. I didn't. I got brought in last, so my old CFO brought me in as the GM to run the business and put it together because I had a bit of tech as well, and I kind of knew how things glue together. Had no experience in online like retail. It's a different space again, right? It's tech, and it's not like Box Brownie, but it's different. So we we spent so much money on trying to come up with the brand, the concept, and the real learning here is we had the wrong team. And I said to my old CFO who was running point, I said, mate, we've got the wrong team. The guys are already in the boat. Are just nice guys, but they're just they're not the right guys. And that was a big lesson where if we had the right team, we probably would have been Koala. And so we're getting ready. We're spending all this money on marketing. We used the marketing company out of Brizzy. Spent like $120K. All this branding. It was called Sommuto, SOMMUTO. And I couldn't say it. I couldn't spell it. And I sort of said to all these guys, I said, guys, like, what's with this name? Oh, it's Latin for changing sleep. And they kind of gave you all the big fluffy sales pitch. And I just was like, it's the wrong name. And I should have dug my heels in there, and I didn't. And so we had the best product. It was way better than Koala's product. We had better. They were bringing stuff in from China. They were trying to use, we had a way better product. Anyway, we're getting ready to launch this rocket, and Koala launched. Bang! Like a week or two before us.
Had you heard about Koala? Was there rumbles?
Anything?
Nothing.
Hadn't heard nothing. Just out of nowhere. Bang! They had this wine video where I'll never forget.
Great marketing.
Correct. They had this, and they were literally just better marketers than us, right? And this is the big lesson that marketing generally trumps everything, right? They were just better than us, and they had this glass of wine. They sat on the mattress, chicken in pajamas, whatever. Jumped up, landed on the mattress, and it didn't spill, and it went viral. It had millions of hits. They had a way better name, Koala, cute, cuddly, friendly. And they were going hard on socials, and it was a good, like, we still had an okay business. Like, we were doing, I think, 150 mattresses a month or something. Like, it's still 150 grand a month type business, but it just didn't fire like Koala. And they
what's funny? Sorry to interrupt you. I've still got in my favourites. You'll be able to see it up here. 0 to 13 mil, 12 month. I read that probably once a year. That article. On Koala?
As good as Koala, no Koala, because I was on the end of a flogging. So, At least you're humble about it now. It's all good. Yeah, look, and they were just better than us, and they had a better team. They had better marketing. We had a better product, though. And this is where it's a big lesson in life is our product was better. It was way better. It was a comfier mattress, but we still lost. Yeah. And in the end, in the end, like I sort of said, look, I actually made the call to the original CFO. I said, look, guys, I think that we've missed the boat on this one, and I'm happy to give back my shares, and 'cause I was getting paid a pretty substantial amount of money as well to be running, and I just said, look, I don't think it's the right play. I'll leave it with you guys, and so I stepped out. And then they, a month later sold the business because they, so they I think they sold for like, 500 grand. They broke even or whatever it was.
Are they still running?
No, I don't think so.
That's incredible. That's a cool story.
Yeah, that was, and as I say, a lot of lessons learnt on that one. And like koala were just A-graders, who knows, right? If we had been a couple of months earlier, timing's everything, right? As well as...
But again, as you said before, great product, shit marketing, you're screwed anyway, right? So at the end of the day, and you had in the gut feel that the team just wasn't right.
Team wasn't right and the name wasn't right, and I think, a lot of people can get caught up on names, so I'm not saying that that's what you do, but, something you can't say and spell is against something as simple as koala. It's pretty hard to beat them.
Koala's a good brand, yeah. I mean, just alone. What's that timber company? Recycled plastic, Mobile, whatever it is, Mobu or whatever.
Yeah,
Mobile, yeah, that's it. Yeah, there we go. We're all saying something different.
Yeah.
Is that me dinging there? Or was that you dinging?
That's me. My time's up.
Oh, is it? I think I want to turn off. That's all sweet though. We're still recording on here. So, all right, mattress stuff. Let's keep it going from there. What's next,
mate? I think that the next step was from all of that was to get into property.
Yeah.
That was the next big step, and I always had a passion for property. I loved the concept of property developers. I had, because I was in IT, I had lots of friends that were in that space. I had one of my good friends, Scott Juniper. The Juniper family. They've built a tallest building on the Gold Coast. I used to do their IT. They were one of our biggest clients. They had hundreds of staff. So I used to know all these guys as a trusted advisor from a tech point of view. Yeah. So I kind of had the trust of a lot of people when it came to tech. So, I said to Scott, we were actually sharing an office at the time. Unfortunately, he, kind of managed to keep his shirt, but just through the GFC. I put him and his business partner at the time up in my IT office, and also Samuto office as well, like over a few years. Yeah, so they were in there just sort of, in the corner type thing. Just taking a little space. Yeah, I don't even think I charged them, to be honest, from memory, just because I kind of wanted to get into property, and it was always good having those chats. So yeah, I said to him, mate, cut me into a property deal. I want to be a developer. And he laughed at me. And he said, mate, you're kidding, right? I said, no. He goes, you had no value. You don't really have, and he's very just straight, just bang. He goes, you don't really have any money, like from a development point of view. To be a developer, you really need some money to get going. He's like, you don't really have any money, you don't have any skills, and you can't even sell anything. How do you add value? And I'm like, well, you make a few good points. I said, so what do I do? He goes and prints out the town plan for me, right? So it was back then. It was in a big big A3 or whatever folder, and he slaps it on my desk and he says, go and study this. And he said, he who finds the deal controls the deal. I said, okay. So what do you mean? Explain that to me. He goes, you go find a deal, you call me, and if it's any good, you're in the deal. So so that's how I started. I started sort of cold calling, door knocking. Looking for strategic sites to buy for development.
Shit, how many? So what's in this town plan? What are you reading in this town plan?
It's basically like one page per suburb, and it's basically a map, and on the map it's got all the different zoning. So it might have it might have like low density, which is normal housing. It might have sport and rec. It might have medium density, which can be townhouses. High density, which is high rises. So it's it's got flooding and all that type of stuff. So I just started studying different suburbs that had opportunity, and at the time it was like Palmwoods, Woombai, those type of suburbs where there was opportunity. So
knocking on doors, cold calling.
It's a lot like what real estate, and I've never done this as a real estate agent, but I used to do it as a wannabe developer, and it would literally be the handwritten note. It'd be the phone call, and it'd just be like, hey, look, I'm property developer, or I might even say, I've got a property, however it is, would you sell your site, basically? And at those days, it wasn't about trying to buy them. It was actually trying to option them up, because we, didn't really have much money at the time to just go buy a $2 million site. And
just quickly explain. So there's going to be a ton of people who have no idea what an option is. Just explain what an option is.
Yeah. So an option is when where you go to a property owner and, you ask for, time, 12 months worth of time to get a development approval and get it worked out at an agreed value. And then you would settle it and do the deal. So you're effectively buying property without paying for it. And if it doesn't work work out, you can basically drop it. Yeah, so it was, you know, in those days, the market wasn't crazy hot. You couldn't do that now. People would laugh at you. You know, well, they wouldn't laugh at you, but it's not as easily done. People still do it day to day, but it wasn't like it was where I'm knocking on, you know, old farmers' doors at Palmwoods. And
But are you doing the knock? So are you, where are you working at this point?
At that point, I'm sort of like transitioned out of Box Brownie and Samudo, and
So you got some cash behind you. You can kind of afford to just go around and knock on some doors and throw some letters in and just kind of get some few deals because you knew that was your next.
Yeah, correct.
Next crust.
Yeah, exactly. So look, we're doing that, and we tied up a couple of sites that were subject to getting the approvals, and left them with the strategy was leave them with their house on a portion of land and then buy the balanced land off them, which we could then cut up. So effectively it was a pretty good deal. You know, they'd keep their house, the area they love, but, you know, we might buy 10,000 metres off the side of them. So went around doing that, and that sort of. You know.
So you're going back to the original line. You find the deal, you're in the deal. Yeah. So still no cash in.
Still no cash in. Yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, but obviously you're still working to find the deal, and for anyone who doesn't know, that's a bit of a shit fight in itself.
Yeah, it was just a strategy, and as I say, I was always of the opinion, might be, you know, since seeing what happened with my parents about being leveraged, I could have easily gone and financed a side and had a crack, but I was always very low risk. I'd always cut other people in, like another business partner, Toby Zaremba, who is the best at land subdivisions, you know, on the planet, you know, and he was a good friend of mine at the time. He was an engineer, and I started, you know, cutting him into a few deals. Originally, I paid him to be my project manager, and he said, "Man, like, you know, I want to do my own deals too." I'm like, "Well, you're in. You know, you've got the skills. You know,
that's like you and Dion all over again, just finding the skills of who does what."
Pretty much, you know, when I think about it, I always sort of just try and team up with someone who's got the skills I don't have.
Yeah, power in numbers.
You know, because you can't be the best at everything, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So developed obviously did a few deals. I'm assuming that's when you got the license, right? And thought, bugger it.
You're right. So yes, it made exactly. So we were paying a few agents. They were getting 3% com. It was actually an agent out at Beale. What was that guy's name?
I don't know.
Can we name it?
Oh, it doesn't know. We won't use names. But anyway,
we have one of our direct competitors to thank for Craig Morrison getting into real estate.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So what happened is, you know, we had a couple of deals that need selling. You know, I was out at Beale. I remember there was 7 blocks of land. It was on Shores Road. And they'd been trying to sell these 7 blocks of land for months. They'd only sold like 1 or 2. And I said to my partners at the time, so Toby and a few people, and I said, guys, like, it doesn't look like rocket science. You know, we're paying, I saw they're getting paid 3.3%, including GST. You know, the blocks are like 300 grand. You know, they're getting like 10 grand a block. And I was like, wow, like that's good money. And I didn't actually realise that real estate agents got paid so much money, to be honest. I said to them, I'll sell them if you pay me. You know, I'm not going to go just do them for to be a nice guy. Yeah. So I went and literally I did I remember my first. So I got into real estate with another mate of mine who already had an agency. So instead of trying to do my own, I said, look, you know, can I run my projects through you? He had the brand systems in place. You know, at this stage, I thought there's no point in having my own brand. I'm just going to sell a few of our own projects. And I did an open land, and my mate at the time who owned the agency, he's like, an open land? I said, yeah, I don't know, we'll set an open home time for a block of land. I'll drive out and stand there and see if someone turns up. Anyway, lo and behold, a guy turns up, buys a block off me, the first open land. I didn't even know what I was doing, really, to be honest, and sold the block of land and said, how good's this? So,
again, just thinking outside the box though, like I don't think there'd be too many advertised open home times for a block of dirt. Just mate, you talk to someone, just go drive past it.
That wasn't even built yet either. Like, you know,
yeah, right, true.
You know, it was off the plan.
Yeah, okay. So obviously found a bit of a knack, found a bit of a niche in. Actually, quickly, we still charging the other guys, or we like the guys you were with, the 3.3%? Did have a deal? Yeah, okay. Yes. Curious.
3.2.
Yeah, no, I did it 2.5. I said, oh, look, I'll because there had to be something in it for them, you know. I said, I can save you guys some money as well. And because I'm in the development deal, mate, if the phone rings at 4 o'clock on a Sunday and I've already cracked a beer, I'll put the beer down and I'll drive out there and I'll try and sell the property. Whereas, you know, I couldn't rely on the agent who was, potentially taking the orders, So, yeah, that was the big kicker for them, is that you had someone with skin in the game putting everything into it.
How long did it then take you to become number one recommended agent in Biwa?
Mate,
About
what?
4 weeks.
About a week or two, yeah. No, look, and that was just off the back of, we then had a few projects in BOR, we did 7 lots there. We did, I can't even remember how many was in Evergreen, 27 lots, so.
And a lot of these came back around, right? So these guys would come, they'd buy the land off you.
And then you'd respin them.
And then, yeah, exactly. So you were establishing what they were doing before they purchased? Like you were identifying, okay, these guys are building to sell?
Yeah, no, honestly, not really. I would just always, always try and do the right thing by everyone, and I've always done it. It's always a long-term, I wouldn't even call it a strategy, it's just how I am, and I'd always... once you do the deal, when they'd call you, and sometimes, they might be annoying, calling you, chasing up for some sort of easement document or something 6 months later, where there's a lot of agents just go, oh, mate, I've sold, I've been paid. I'd always just keep trying to help, put them in contact with builders, just, adding value, I guess, wherever you can. And, yeah, they got respun, a lot of them, and came around, and they'd call me, and then, obviously the market kept going up, so everyone was in front as well. So,
yeah, so that's obviously a period of time. When did the town come along? When did you go, do you know what? Let's just do our own thing.
You know what? We're doing the land, and then in between that was a high rise. So I did a high rise with Scott Juniper. We did 2 high rises actually. We did one in Alex called Beach Life. So $70 million project, 57 units. It just went to plan. I found the site, funnily enough. And it was over a long lunch in Noosa. I'm at Locale, having lunch with a mate of mine who was an agent, and he said he's got this site coming on, and Scott had mentioned it to me before and said you should try and track it down. I didn't have any luck, and I remember walking outside and calling Scott and going, mate, I've found that site. I said, what can we afford to pay for it? He goes, mate, just trap it however you can trap it. So anyway, we went back in, obviously shouted the next round to try and juice them up. And we trapped the site, $7 million. And did the deal on the spot basically, and and then that's when I sort of said to Scott, okay, how are we going to fund this? He goes, mate, this is easy. We just need to raise some capital, some investors, and put them in the deal. And
had you been in that space yet?
Not at that level, not at high rise level, no. Yeah. So once again with someone else, Scott, but I found the deal. We raised $9 million, so the site was 7, some marketing money, stamps, bit of buffer. Raised $9 million through local business people in like a week or two. So we got that money together, settled the site, designed the building, and sold it off the plan. We had to sell 30 mil off the plan to get the build out of the ground. So we did that. We just it was just a perfect plan that the feasibility or the build, everything just came in perfect.
How long does a project like that take? Start from sort of signing?
4 years.
Yeah, okay,
4
gotcha.
Years. It was a slow grind. So that happened, and we gained a lot of experience with the projects, and I guess that's where kind of town came in. So had a crossroads there with Scott. We'd done a couple of others together, and his pedigree, he just wants to be huge, right? And he was going really fast, and I was kind of back to my family. I was kind of like, okay, I'm pretty happy with what we've done. We've done a handful of projects. He's got another 20 high rise on the go now, and I just said, look, I was at that crossroads where I could have probably stayed with him and kept doing that, and then that's where kind of town got born. COVID hit, and we launched town literally week 1 of COVID.
Definitely.
Yeah,
literally, probably launched about the same time.
So how was that?
It was great.
Yeah,
it was awesome. I love that couple of weeks of just feeling free.
Yeah.
I surfed every day, like life was good, and town was actually originally meant to be project specific, so we were going to actually go around and sell, because when I was with Scott doing those, I kept getting approached by other developers saying, hey, can you come and sell our project? And Scott was always like, mate, you can't do that. Your priorities with us and the syndicate and what we're doing, that's a competition, and I respect that. And we've missed out on, millions of dollars worth of commissions, I guess, because of that, and that's okay. So town was meant to go around and sell other high rises, and COVID hit and all the projects stopped for that couple of months. And I thought to myself, well, as bad as it sounds, I thought, well, people, if this COVID thing is real, people are going to need to sell their house. So I need to pivot really quickly and focus on
That's a mental thought you had?
straight away, yeah.
Jeez.
I thought to myself, because we were in the projects as well, and you know, we had beach life. It hasn't settled yet, so it's nearly complete. And Scott rings me and says, "Mate, can you call all 57 buyers and find out how they're tracking?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Mate, find out if they can afford to settle." I'm like, "Shit, okay." So I started dialing through, and everyone's out. Like, "Mate, it's going to be tough." But they couldn't get out. They were locked in, but we wanted to still find out. And you know, it was all of that was going on. And then, that's when I thought, you know what, the play is actually to just try and sell a couple of normal houses. So we launched one house in Budrum, $2 million house, week one of COVID pretty much. And the seller was like, "Mate, I just want to sell it. You know, let's just test it." And I said, "You sure? No one's launched a property on the Sunshine Coast since COVID started. You know, what do you want to do?" So we launched it and sold it really quickly. And I was like, okay, probably should have cottoned on a little bit more because they kept selling quick.
Is this Illawarra, by the way?
Illawarra, yeah.
Illawarra, that's what it is.
It was Illawarra, spot on. I think at 23 Illawarra. Yeah.
Went through that house.
Yeah.
With old mate. Anyway, so there you go. Yeah, interesting. So that was your first resi sale.
Yeah, at town it was. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
and obviously, like, so no office and stuff back then, right? You're kind of just working from the lounge room and just on the road.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I actually got sick of working from home. You know, I kind of wanted to get back into an office environment. You know, I think everyone will agree it was fun for a while, but, you know, it is nice just coming to work and just sort of, you know,
getting to work,
getting it knocked out, and you know.
So town now, you got 4 or 5 blokes now with you.
Yeah, we've got 5 agents. Yeah, a couple of you know, I guess PAs or EAs, and
And was that always kind of the goal, or were they just mates that went? Like what you do,
mates that I've worked with before, just, you know, like-minded people. I mean, you know, the goal at town, and, you know, to be very clear, it's different to what you guys want to do, right? Yeah. We don't want to grow it. We want to keep it small. We want to keep it tiny. You know, I don't want to have, you know, 100 staff again, you know, that I've got to manage. You know, so we've said no to a lot of people wanting to come on board because we just want to keep it small. We all work together collaboratively. You know, the town vehicle is really there to support, you know, the development space and what's going on there as well. You know, our interests are still in property development as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so a few more projects on the go.
Yeah, a few more projects, but it's good cash flow, real estate. You know, as you guys know, you know, it's hard to be a property developer without cash flow.
Mate, let's close to wrap it up. A couple of things I want to probably find about you as an individual now. I mean, hell of a story, but let's talk about all the cliches, right? Like routines and gym and you know, reading. Are you into any of that stuff? What's your sort of day-to-day self-development look like?
Ice baths, saunas. Nah, look, I think routine, you know, is critical, and I find I'm at my best when I am up early doing some type of exercise or surf. You know, I'd like to say I'm doing something like that every morning, but sometimes, you know, if I don't feel like it, I just don't, you know. But yeah,
beat yourself up for it.
No, I don't even anymore. Like, you know, like if I wake up and I just feel like going for a walk with the missus, well, that's just what I do, you know. So, but yeah, when the surf's on, I'll definitely always surf. You know, but yeah, like I find, I mean, it's you know, you need that bit of you know, balance with things that you enjoy doing outside of work. You know, it can't just be all work, you know, and sometimes, you know, I definitely get off the track where you get to the end of the week, I actually haven't done anything this week that I enjoy myself. Yeah. You know, and it might be going for a game of golf with the boys. You know, you've just got to book it in, lock it in, turn the phone off, and, you know, well, not turn it off, but leave it away and, do it.
How's the energy then? I mean, obviously there's a lot happening. Like, how you balancing? Because I'm listening to that and just going, man, that's just... Yeah, how? I mean, and look, we've all got the same hours in the day and all that crap. Yeah. But I'm kind of looking at it, going, what's fueling you? What's the end goal? Is it you know, the financial freedom stuff? Yeah. Is it like, you know, inherited? What's the word? Generational wealth? It's that kind of stuff. What is it? Yeah. What's the driving factor?
Look, I think, you know, for business for me is kind of, you know, I've felt like I've been pretty good at it. So it's kind of a bit of a game, you know, and it's, you kind of get stuck just playing the game and I enjoy it, you know, like I generally enjoy sort of playing it. So, you know, and you're playing to win, you know, as I say, I was, you know, very sporty as a kid and, you know, my sisters were sporty, you know, with Queensland soccer, Sunshine Coast soccer. My sisters were, first and second in beach flags for Australia. As twins, 1, 2. So we're a very competitive, sporty family. So I think that competitiveness of just always wanting to I guess win and do the best. And it's a bit like the real estate side of things. Like once you kind of doing it right, you want to keep doing it right. You don't want to let it go. So, but look, life's changed a bit. Like I've got a wife now, Jamie, and we're halfway pregnant now as well. So I think things, I'm aiming for things to change and not be as work centric, and you don't want to just be on this hamster wheel forever where you're just trying to buy the next flashy thing or the bigger whatever. You've got to hit a point, I think, in your life where you're happy with what you've got and, try and enjoy it. Because I'm 37 now, 38 now. Mooney's just pointing up. I always try and typical salesperson trying to fluff it up a little bit. So, that's...
No, awesome, man. Look, hell of a story. Mooney, anything else to add there, mate? What, anything that he's held back on? Any funky stories to share?
No. I think his it's a polished and professional story. I still remember the Craig Morrison and the supercharged VL Commodore. Cruising around surfing every weekend.
We won't go there.
But,
what's the car now?
But amazing transformation, right? Like from when we were young to where you are today. It's as someone that's been as close to you as I have. It's inspiring for me, let alone other people that watch you from afar and don't really know who you are. So, well done.
Yeah, kudos. No, good on you, mate.
And I was going to say, I'll just, with that, I think you do need a little bit of luck along the way, and I always have the mantra, I don't want to get unlucky, right? I just don't want to get unlucky. And I think, some things happen for a reason, like, on the journey that kind of, put you where you need to be. And,
Mate, good finish that. Yeah, you don't want to be unlucky, crack a line. Ultimately, luck's what's the definition of luck when opportunity meets preparation or whatever it is, Like it sounds like you're just saying yes to a lot of things and just taking. For someone who's pretty risk adverse, you've still taken a fair bit of risk on, but I guess it's been managed and just roll with the punches. But mate, good on you. Thanks for coming on. First episode in the bank. Where do they find you on socials if they want to watch the journey, mate? Instagram
at Craig Morrow.
Give him a follow, mate.
I've got 2,400 followers.
Let's watch that go to 2,401.
It might go backwards. There could be some unfollows.
Good stuff. Anyway, mate, thanks again. Good journey. Good to listen. Good on you. Appreciate it, brother. Talk to you.